Hello, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to our Friday edition video, where today I'm finally going to be featuring the Tier 9 Japanese battleship, the Izumo. Now, before I go more into my own thoughts on this ship, I'm going to be sharing a little bit from the WoW's wiki to kind of help you get a better understanding of this ship, and then I'll give you my own thoughts as well. So, when talking about the Izumo, initially, this ship actually used to be worse than what it is today. When you're asking me overall, how do I like this ship? At first, I hated it until I got to understand the ship a little bit more. And she's a okay ship. She's not a good ship, not a great ship, not a terrible ship. She's meh. She's all right. Maybe you can say consider Izumo being a good ship, and that's just how I personally would phrase my relationship with the ship. You might play this ship and you absolutely love the Izumo, and if that's the case, great for you. But this ship actually used to be worse back in the day, and it was once considered to be like one of the worst Tier 9 battleships. One of those reasons why is that her concealment actually used to be worse. I think now you can get a max concealment of 13.5, if I'm not mistaken, with how I have the build set up. And then the central weather deck of the ship was increased to 57mm to mitigate damage from high explosive shells from 2 and 3mm and IFHE 152mm guns. And that helped the ship a lot as well. With having more of that kind of stock, that section of deck armor is super helpful because it really helps to mitigate a lot of the HE spam that will come at you, as this said. So that really helped the ship overall. So just showing some of the pros and cons. Her main battery gun penetration is excellent. With very high shell velocity for a battleship. So you'll notice it doesn't take these shells very long to cross the map. She has great dispersion due to the IGN battleship dispersion and Sigma. We're going to come back and talk about that. And this ship, unlike any of the other battleships I've played, Izumo has a very, very small superstructure. After I shoot out here, I mean, you can see there's really not much of a superstructure. So this ship feels really weird because of how wide, when you're looking at just the width of the ship and how long she is. It kind of feels out of place in comparison to maybe a lot of other ships in the game, battleships that is. With it having a smaller superstructure, the shells don't have a whole lot to hit, and that 57mm weather deck over the middle shatters a lot of cruisers, HE, besides Goliath. Izumo also has good belt armor and good angling potential due to her guns having these forward favorable arcs. So that's nice. Now, when we're looking at the cons, the Izumo is larger than the Yamato. She's got 9 guns compared to the Tier 8 Japanese battleship, the Amagi. And then in many respects, and I think this hit it pretty well because I was going to talk about it here, is that the Izumo is inferior to Amagi, including size, speed, torpedo protection, maneuverability, because I prefer the Amagi of the Izumo because of those reasons. Your stern armor is very weak, so this is a battleship that you really want to focus on being bow in, not kiting away. This is something I also learned along the way. The middle turret doesn't have a full 360-degree rotation, even though it seems possible, so that's a little frustrating. Her turtleback, Izumo does have, but it's not as like the German turtleback that you're going to find, on FDG, Bismarck, Preußen, Grosse Kurfürst. It's different, so you can eat multiple citadels if you get caught broadside. The turret placement leaves the ship extremely vulnerable to attacks in the aft arc and makes the number 3 turret somewhat difficult to use. Because if you notice, basically if you switch sides, so if I'm firing off to my port now, the left side of the ship, if I go to move my turret to the starboard side to the right, it's like that turret has to do a 270-degree turn to become useful in that number 3 turret position. The concealment, though buffed, is still mediocre, and only with the FDG and the Minnesota being worse. So Izumo is a very interesting battleship for me to play. Even on this map, I mean, you can see I'm on the H line and kind of feeling hung out to dry here with the carrier coming in, Vermont. We have Tashkent who's spamming HE from range. He's doing exactly what I would do, so not griefing him by any means in that sense. But it's frustrating playing the Izumo in the sense that Izumo is not a carrying battleship. That's very important to understand. I would definitely never, ever recommend Izumo for ranked battles, just because Izumo doesn't have the capability to really carry a ranked battle. Now, you might have those occasional battles where the stars kind of fall into place, you get really lucky, maybe a lot of the enemy teams showing you a lot of broadside, but Izumo is not a ship in which you can carry in something like I would feel more comfortable in the Iowa, the Georgia, the Musashi, the Tier 9, was it the Prince Rupert German battle cruiser, battleship. Those ships all do a better job than what Izumo can do. So even in randoms, what helped me kind of understand the ship more is that this ship really relies on the help of your team. If you're alone on the flank trying to defend an enemy push, you're really going to be struggling to really stand your ground or be helpful in a lot of ways, just because you don't have this fantastic secondary armament. The ship really revolves around her main guns with how she just handles herself in that sense. And your A defenses, they're okay. They're not great by any means. But that's just kind of how Izumo rolls. And she's a battleship you're going to play mid to long range. And that was another thing that for me personally as a battleship player, I like being able to have the ability to feel like I'm maneuverable. I can angle in well. I can push into mid-range, and then I can disengage easily. Izumo's, that's just not the case, just because she kind of reminds me of FDG in a sense of how large of a battleship she is. It's really hard to be able to do that. If you end up getting overextended, it doesn't take very much for you to get killed, especially with that weak stern armor. You just won't put up very well to consistent fire coming in towards you. Now, one of the things that frustrated me about this ship until I kind of learned and was trying to figure out the Izumo was her dispersion. Actually was kind of really frustrating me. And that was more on the part of not fully understanding how the dispersion works. So when you go for the Amagi, let's say you have it equipped with your upgrades, so on and so forth. So the Sigma on the Amagi is 1.8. Your maximum dispersion horizontally, 212. Maximum dispersion vertically, 169. Now on the Izumo, the dispersion goes up to 2.0 Sigma. So Sigma is basically the chances of your shells landing in the center of where you're aiming at, okay? But the maximum dispersion horizontally is 224 compared to Amagi's 212. And vertically, it's 179 compared to Amagi's 169. So you actually, in a lot of retrospects, you have worse vertical dispersion. Even the Iowa has a tighter vertical dispersion grouping. So you can feel like, I feel like my salvo is accurate, but then when the shells go to land, you feel like they're vertically spread out more than what you feel like they would. At least that was the case for me, and getting kind of frustrated with learning and figuring Izumo out. So her Sigma is better, but her vertical dispersion in comparison, or her Sigma, yeah, is better than Amagi, but her horizontal or vertical dispersion, is worse than the Amagi, and also worse than the Iowa. So that can be frustrating when you step into the Izumo. Yeah, just overall in general. Oh, we got a nice Citadel there too. So I think those were the main things at least I wanted to hit on, and I'm just doing 2 random battles for you today, and highlighting the Izumo. I normally like to do a live commentary, but I'm kind of struggling with a headache migraine right now. I'm recording this on Thursday night. I normally like to try to record this on Friday morning, but I'm taking a hike with some friends tomorrow, so I needed to get this video done sooner rather than later. So this has been kind of a wash for the enemy team. We've only lost 2 ships. They only have 4 remaining. But we're circling back and talking about Izumo in terms of that I think she's a mediocre battleship. You're free to disagree with me. You might think Izumo's a great battleship. That's great for you if it really works for you. But for me, that's just not the case. I feel like a lot of Izumo revolves around having at least decent teammates around you and helping you. Like I said, Izumo's not a battleship for ranked. I played multiple battles in ranked with Izumo, just trying to get a feel for the ship, and just was not having it. Even if I scored top 3, second or first place, she's just not a ship that can carry. You can't expect Izumo to carry. I feel pretty strongly about that. But again, you may feel free to disagree with me. It's just my opinion. In terms of my experience overall in playing battleships, when I'm playing Izumo, really Izumo is really a different type of battleship for me in general in terms of my player experience. I should also probably highlight when you're dealing with a CV dropping torpedoes on you like that, you want to cut the throttle and then turn in. And then here I'm trying to pick up the throttle again, but when you avoid that first strike, you're basically a sitting duck, and there's not much you can do when the second strike comes in. So just a tip, it's a lot harder to just dodge in a battleship, but we can at least dodge the first salvo. And you're getting to see our AA at work. I'm not going to use a damage control party for the get the propulsion back online, because not only does the Hakuryu get to drop me once, not only does he get to drop me twice, but he gets to drop me 3 times. So like I said, the AA is nothing to write home about. It's okay to being poor, in my opinion. And we'll go ahead and go into post-battle results. For this first battle, we did pick up Dreadnought, 3rd on the team. I didn't really feel like we did a whole lot, but we got some good damage in where it was needed to be at, especially on that Vermont. So then going into the next battle, we're going to be domination mode again in randoms battle on the map Trap. But what I wanted to say in terms of my player experience in playing battleships is Izumo is very different. It feels very different to me. I don't like a battleship that has to rely so much on my teammates being supportive and helping me out around me. Like, if I get left hung out to dry, I want to be able to feel like I can have some control, that I feel like a threat to the enemy. And I don't feel that with Izumo. I think part of it is when I started first playing World of Warships back in the fall of 2019, is that I love to brawl. I like to be in a battleship where I can brawl and play at medium range. And realizing how important the rudder, how maneuverable your ship is, with your concealment and the size of your ship. Izumo is not multiple of those things. When you're working with the stock hull A, there's actually a noticeable increase you get with a rudder shift time going from hull A to hull B. So I'm pretty sure it's tied in the hull. So you definitely want that, because it will shave multiple seconds off your rudder shift time. And honestly, that is really needed. So I definitely recommend that. But for me to play a battleship that requires me to basically only play at medium range to sometimes longer range is honestly rather difficult for me as a player, because I don't feel like I'm able to exert my influence as much in matches, where if I need to push in to help, I can do that. In Amagi, I feel like I could do that. Although I think Amagi is a fantastic medium range battleship, and you can Amagi is a battleship in which you want to be able to angle away, because she has a strength in her stern armor, where Izumo, you don't get that. All your turrets are in the front. And I had asked on my YouTube community to try and get some thoughts, inputs, like, hey, how do you guys play the Izumo? What do you find that works well for you? Because I was genuinely seeking advice, maybe considering I hadn't tested something out yet with Izumo that I wasn't considering. Some of you had some good input, which was nice. And then others were kind of wondering, like with me, like, well, what other battleships in the game have all their turrets in the front? So then immediately maybe something like the Nelson, the Lenin come into mind. And Lenin feels so different to me than the Izumo. Lenin is the Russian battleship at Tier A. Like, the Lenin is probably my second favorite Tier A battleship, just behind the Massachusetts. But even with the similar turret arrangement, it's not the exact same similar. Lenin feels so different to me than Izumo. You also have to take into account the rudder shift time. The ship overall is smaller, and you're at Tier 8 versus being at Tier 9. And then you begin to think of, well, how much does the Izumo might fit in with the Nelson, the British Tier 7 battleship, with all her 3 turrets up front. And kind of reminds me somewhat similar, just in terms of slow, not as maneuverable. If you get caught out with not having enough support, you are easily able to get punished in the Nelson. So those Nelson, in a certain sense, can kind of feel somewhat similar to me in Izumo, but again, there's a lot of differences still overall when we're talking about this Izumo, the battleship. So I'm grinding my way up to Yamato. Hope to have Yamato soon. What I feel Izumo does really well is that she punishes cruisers like that who do not take your gun seriously. Since you have that good, decent shell velocity, shell travel time. Even that Vermont in the last match, we got a Citadel when he went full broadside onto us. So you definitely have good penetration to be able to punch through and do a lot of damage on enemy ships. This match, I felt like I was getting more of the hang, like I was adjusting myself more to my expectations out of Izumo in terms of her gun accuracy. If you go from Amagi and then you go to Izumo and you have really high expectations because of your experience with Amagi, I would kind of caution you with that because, again, it just doesn't play the same. In certain regards, again, it's inferior. Here the Seattle player is trying to fire at me long range, so I decided to use the third turret, so that number 3 turret, to fire in Seattle. Maybe we can get something working here, and we get another Citadel of only one of 3 shells that hit. So when I fire a couple more salvos here, you kind of get more of a feel. Maybe you've already picked it up from the previous video, but being able to see the dispersion of the shells when it's flying at range on targets, because again, it doesn't feel like it takes very long for the shells to travel there due to their shell travel flight time. So here we have secure the cap. We have these enemy ships that we're dealing with, still dealing with Seattle. We have an Iowa, and then we also have it's 2 Iowas here, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll get to use this island to push up as we finish off the Seattle. Again, with these guns, the Seattle is not, like cruiser, is not going to be able to defend itself. I didn't note this, but the guns are 410 millimeter guns. So quite good in that regard. Again, here I'm able to fire undetected, letting the fire burn. I have 5 heals, and I don't feel the need to just burn a damage control party on that fire. We get to use our adrenaline rush a little bit here and having a slightly faster reload and playing the Izumo here. Now, she doesn't have the standard 30-second reload time. I have 26-second reload time, roughly, with the Izumo. We'll go over the upgrade and commander build video tomorrow, Saturday, and looking a little bit closer at the ship. Now I'm getting detected. I've come out a little farther. The Iowa moved forward, and it looks like he's going to show me broadside. So I talked recently about holding your shots. Like, if he's going to go a little more broadside, maybe we're going to hold the shot. So we fire the number 1, number 2 turret, then we get the number 3 turret off. And we get 2 overpins, 1 pin, so we get some ricochets, torpedo protection hits. That's a little frustrating, but he's still angled to us enough in that regard. And I'm trying to get this guy to help me, to request support, so we can both push up on these Iowas. So here, Iowa goes broadside, so we're going to fire off a salvo there. I am pretty conscious of there being a destroyer around. The Fletcher I don't think he's been detected on the map yet. Kitakaze has. He's up to the north, but the Fletcher, I do not believe has been detected yet from my glancing at the mini-map, but I could be mistaken. So I just want to push up. I want to get this island between me and that destroyer that's out there, as my team's pinging the map that there's something over there. You have okay, maybe it's better than what I'm thinking, torpedo belt protection. Definitely really good on the Yamato, but I don't think it's as good on the Izumo. So here, just continuing to push up, just because our team is in a position where we can apply pressure, and you get to see the strength of that belt armor. We took no damage from that Iowa salvo that fired at us. Now there, we took a little bit of chip damage, but overall, you want to be in these positions where you're able to be bow in, slightly angled. If you're not careful, that number 3 turret can get you in trouble if you're trying to get it off, and you end up overturning with your rudder, and you expose too much side. You can be citadeled or take good penetration damage. So you just have to be mindful in how you work the 3rd turret. You have to exercise patience. If the enemy battleship's ready to shoot, then I'm not going to be turning full broadside just to get that 3rd turret off. Here, I'm still pretty paranoid about the enemy Fletcher. That's somewhere out here. And I was thinking in my mind, Flimsy, you should cut the throttle before you go up to that channel. And I was like, nah, it's okay. I think it's fine. I'll go ahead and push up. And that's what happened, because I didn't listen to that little voice in my mind. Because normally when you're approaching the, you're going out in the open, so I would kind of kill this throttle there. When you're going around an island corner or something like that, it's very traditional that a lot of destroyer players kind of want to sit on the island and they're just waiting for you, and they dump their torpedoes because like, hey, I want to get into cover because, we came out here, he's not out here. But he did get successful torpedo hits on us. So generally speaking, before you come out on the corner of the island, when you know there's a destroyer lurking around, just go ahead and cut the throttle. Slow down. You can chill for maybe you just slow down enough, 10, 15 seconds, and then you can just continue on your way, and you'll find yourself avoiding multiple torpedo salvos. If I would have done that there, I wouldn't have eaten those, I think, 2 torpedoes from the Fletcher. So I was using my airstrike depth charge. I was fishing to see if the Fletcher had AA on, and I don't think he's in front of me or to the right. I have more of a feeling he's off to the left, just because of how my my friendlies are positioned. I think we have friendly Battleship and Bravo. He's not picking up anything, and I'm dark, 13.5 kilometer concealment. So. And we just pick up the Fletcher. He's to the north. He's pushing in against our allied Izumo. So now we can come out from here. So again, this is a match that was kind of favored in our team's favor over the enemy. Our team did well. The enemy just made a lot of mistakes to the north, and we were able to capitalize on cap control and how we were able to, I guess 4 of the ships we killed were on our flank, right? So we completely eliminated the threat on our flank, and basically now we're working up to defend Bravo and see if we can't help defend the enemy push from C down to Bravo. But we lose our enemy Izumo there to the Fletcher. I have switched over to high explosive and wanting to try to get damage here on the Fletcher. One of the things, I also need to say, I'm spreading my shots there purposely because sometimes when you fire a whole salvo, like all of your turrets, the enemy will make a different position just because of your salvo. So when you ripple fire them like that, sometimes you kind of bluff them into making a maneuver. You can even do that with enemy cruisers, where they think, oh, he's fired his gun, now I'm going to turn this way, but you only fired 1 of 3 turrets. So that's why you saw me doing that there. And I don't remember what I was going to say before that. So anyhow, we're pushing up here. Our team's getting really close. Within 30 seconds, I will win if no one else on our team dies. This is a position I really wouldn't want to be in. I think we killed someone. Just because you have Brindisi, I believe that was, and the other enemy ship I just said. Sorry, my headache's bothering me a bit. And starting to take attention from the high explosives. So we did 86,900 damage. We got 1 destroyed. Only 35 target hits. So again, didn't feel like it was a fantastic battle, but we topped the team with 1,400. But again, it was a bit of another... I don't remember the term I used, but it was another wash for the end against the enemy team, where we only lost 2, and we pointed them out just because the enemy team wasn't focusing on cap control. And we did take Seattle for most of his health over the process and did considerable damage to one of the 2 Iowas and a little bit on the Fletcher there. Oh, I remember what I said on the Fletcher. I'll come back to that. Here you can see the credits and experience earned. I don't know if I was running too many the economic bonuses. I don't remember at this point in time what I was running, but that's what we had there. The Fletcher, what I was wanting to say there, is when you see an enemy destroyer out in the open like that, some Battleship players like, oh, if I shoot that enemy destroyer, I might miss him completely or I only get 1 hit. Why don't I just shoot this cruiser that's 15 kilometers or 16 kilometers over this way? And what is important to understand is when destroyers are out there in the open like that, that 1 over penetration, let's say you take 900 over 1,000 health, can make all the difference in the world between that Fletcher fighting against maybe one of your low health allied destroyers on your team, or maybe it means it's the difference of getting that kill when it's needed later on versus just ignoring the destroyer. So when you have destroyers out there like that, you just need to keep trying to apply pressure to them. You try to get that hit, even if you don't think you're going to be so lucky with your salvo at range. So when you're able to support your allied destroyers, like we were trying to support our Izumo there, but Izumo's a torpedo boat destroyer. The Fletcher is more of a hybrid, leans towards gunboat. So it's an uneven match there in terms of that. So we couldn't keep our Izumo alive. So I'm going to wrap the video up now. I do want to say thanks for watching the video. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers, so if you're enjoying the content and haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you did not, give it a thumbs down. And we will catch you next time. Take care.